Hello everyone, and welcome to my soapbox, where I talk about everything that has and always has been on my mind. When I was younger, I used to be obsessed with the Lego Ninjago graphic novels. Loving Ninjago had fueled me with a desperate need to consume everything I possibly could about it. Though in hindsight, these things are actually quite strange, not gonna lie. As a certified lore enjoyer, these comics sure love to do things. By the way, there's a really good chance I will be referring to them as comics and graphic novels interchangeably. I know they're two different things, but for shorthand's sake, this is probably what I'm gonna end up doing. It's gonna slip out, and I'm sorry. But anyways, I want to talk about them because I can't imagine that many people even know what happens in these. Also, I need y'all to see some of these panels because love the art style, by the way. There are some fantastic reaction images to be found in these, so y'all need to be put on this. Also, real quick, I just want to say a few words about my last video, but before I do that, I am going to let y'all in on some little silly fun story that happened behind the scenes, but not interested in that? That's okay, you can skip to this timestamp. So, funny story, this is not my first time recording this. Imagine this, it is mid-February and I just got done recording all this audio. Oh, thank goodness. Well, now I just need to edit all of it. It's probably like over an hour. I don't know what it was. But instead of doing that, I actually was going on a quick vacation and I was like, perfect, I'll bring my laptop with me. I might work on it. Who knows? I definitely won't. I don't know why I bothered. But anyways, bring my laptop with me, and when I was on my flight, my water bottle leaked into my backpack and got all over my computer, and that thing is crazy dead. Perfect, but don't worry, because I'm an incredibly smart individual. Not only did I not sign up for an account on Audacity in order in which I could log on to it anywheres and, have my recording saved. No, I didn't do that. I also didn't save it into the desktop of my laptop, where it could hence there be retrieved. I actually didn't save it at all, not even once. So it's all completely gone, and now I am re-recording it again. Don't be like me. And the funniest part of all of this is that I immediately got sick after my vacation, so I could not record for at least an extra week after already having lost everything. So it's been a very impatient kind of twiddling my thumbs over here of trying to get this thing done. But whatever. Enough of my tragic backstory. Let's address the elephant in the room, the last video. So for starters, thank you so much to everyone who watched and subscribed. Special shout out to everyone who left me nice and encouraging comments. It means so much seeing so many be genuinely supportive of my first video ever. Obvious though, it being my first video on YouTube, I know it wasn't perfect. From my POV, I really genuinely did not think anyone would see it. I can see now why that was not the correct mindset to have on the internet. But really, if you could imagine being in my shoes, you are sitting down, writing, editing something for a channel that has 0 subscribers that you literally just made. It's hard not to wonder, who would possibly see that? How is that going to reach anyone? I was wrong. Admittedly, I got a little sloppy. I had this goal to post this video before 2025 ended. If you can see the date and time in which that video was posted, you will see that that was clearly a buzzer beater. I figured if I just got something out there and then I achieved what I wanted to do, and I could keep improving and moving on forward from that. I did do that, but now I kind of cringe at all the ways I could have gone better, but hey, live and learn. Mind you, I'll probably use this for my next video on season 2. I feel like it's more likely that people are going to see it then, so if you feel like I'm a broken record over there, that is why. So, quick question, are these canon? Short answer, no. Long answer, well, yes when it doesn't contradict, but no when it does, but also these aren't made with the overall story in mind, and not even Tommy and Jason knows what are in these, so... Right. It's a weird answer, but it's probably the best answer that we can get. Fact of the matter, it would be very strange to have an important plot point be contingent on a separate piece of media and expect the entirety of your viewer base to be able to not only be made aware of this vital nugget of information, but also bank on it being readily available to everyone. That being said, to have some random bits of information be potentially canon but forever unaddressed leaves a lot of questions that I'd much rather we just say that none of this is canon. But if we said that, why would anyone read these? I guess at the end of the day, it's just for fun, and whatever happens in these comics, any random character that may be exclusive to comics only will never appear in the mainstream content of the show, and certainly not anything major that the brand itself signs off on. So it's free reign! On record, apparently it is Tommy and Jason's rule that if something doesn't contradict with the canon of the show, then it probably could be canon. Again, this leaves me with a few questions. To be honest, I hate answers like this. I get what he means. But as a viewer, I'm like, but we both know that nothing that happens in these graphic novels matters. Like, it's never going to be brought up again, so... And mind you, according to the wiki, there's different instances where Tommy has talked about the comics. The worst part about that, though, is that, these tweets are either deleted or these links are just broken. I'm not gonna hunt through Tommy's Twitter for this. I'm so sorry, guys. Again, the comics aren't that serious, but the fact that discussions about these are happening and then deleted after the fact is kind of annoying. Albeit, I really am the kind of person that believes everything that's important to the show should just happen in canon in the show, not in a separate source. But hey, look, these graphic novels are seriously just for fun. Farshi, the writer of these, was told to just have fun with it, and it's not that serious. And well, he certainly had fun, said lovingly. Also, fair warning, this will contain spoilers for all of Ninjago. I'm not necessarily spoiling what happens in every season, but if you don't know what's going on between season 1 up until the day it departed or whatever, you're cooked. The first 11 installments of the Ninjago graphic novels are published by Papercuts and written by Greg Farshty, and these lasted from 2011 to 2014. And well, not to flex, but I have a lot of these physical copies. The challenge of Samukai is fairly tame. The first few installments don't get super wild with things anyways. I'm not really gonna be going beat for beat here until it gets really out there, but just know that it's for good reason. Like a good few of these graphic novels, this one has a very clear point in the overall Ninjago timeline that this takes place in. This, of course, being in between the first 2 episodes of the pilot. It's a story about Garmadon and Samukai making a bet about destroying the ninja. If Samukai wins, Garmadon will serve him, but if Garmadon wins, Samukai loses the underworld and everything is his, and then also Samukai has to leave Ninjago forever. It's really not an even trade-off. Again, I'm sorry y'all, if my voice fluctuates a little bit in this, just know I am battling for my life against this phlegm that I have. Oh my god, it's so annoying. I just could not put off recording anymore. The funniest part about this comic, though, is that they both know that the other is also planning another plan to double cross them, so then they're both planning a counter plan, and it's just okay, whatever, you guys are masterminds, that's cool, but what are we doing? What catches my eye about this one the most is that the show lore is just so slightly contradicted here, which just makes me wonder, how did that happen? And how much did Farshi know about the show itself? Because it's just the tiniest things. He says, whatever, blah, 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 1,000 years ago, first Ninjutsu master created the weapons, then he died, yada yada, long before time had a name. Wu defeated his older brother, whatever. But he made one mistake. He asked Wu's dad to make a map. Okay, but in the pilot, he leaves the map with Kai's dad, doesn't ask him to make one. How is that tiny little detail there? I don't know. Basically, though, Kai's main character energy comes out once again because Samukai is oh, if we just, make Kai think that, the friends that he holds dear could actually hurt him, then he'll, not be ninja anymore, and then that will destroy the ninja. I mean, I guess we did have a full episode on how that would be true. Anyways, whatever. Kai gets lured into this crystal cave that makes him look like a skeleton to other people. And so he obviously gets chased by his ninja friends, is confused about it for a second until he sees that his reflection is a skeleton. And then he's like, let me just go back to this skeleton cave again, and I'll stop looking like a skeleton, I guess. But then his ninja friends follow him in there, and they look like skeletons now. That's it for the first third of this. In the next one, Kai and Jay are locked in this trap that is going to kill them by Samukai. And Cole needs to pick which correct door they are behind, or else, they're gonna die. Anyways, we get a flashback where Cole is like learning about his decision-making skills as a leader. That's what he's not confident about. Wu was testing him, and he was making very poor decisions and overthinking it too much. That's when Samukai found out that Cole was overthinking decisions. So that made him think, let me just kidnap Kai and Jay and put them in this perilous situation. And so make Cole choose, and maybe he'll get it wrong, and then these guys will die. Got it. Flashback over, back in the present now. Cole figures out which one to pick because he sees a fly in there. Follow me here for a second. He sees a fly in there. They're swinging axes, but the fly is going through the axes, so Cole breaks into that one. Of course he's right, that's where Kai and Jay is, but he also says that he knew that the axes were made of sugar, and that's why he was like, it'd be fun to do that. How did he figure that out? Why would you think axes are made of sugar? Anyways, he saves them from certain doom or whatever, and then he's like, oh, I never passed Wu's test, but his homies are like, I think you kind of did. You did make a decision. My question is, where was Zane in all of this? The last section of this is that the ninja have decided they figured out a way to stop the skeletons, but Cruncha was listening in, but actually though, they were baiting a trap for the skeletons. So Crunch is gonna go and give him the information that they wanted him to do in the first place. They're basically gonna go around and be like, hey villagers, we was meditating by a river, like, sure hope no skeletons show up, that would suck. The skeletons do show up for this bait, but they're going to try to jump the ninja instead. But actually those ninja were fake ninja because the ninja figured out the double counteracted plan that they were going to do. This is just what this one's doing. I don't know how we all know how to counteract each other, okay? They know how to counteract the counteraction. Samukai counteracted that by still going after Ninja, but the Ninja had a counteract for that too, because now Samukai and his army are falling into a pit because somehow they knew that they would figure out, and then they would figure out, and then Hey guys, me from a few seconds in the future. I bet I didn't explain that well at all. Basically, the skeletons think they're getting a one-up on the ninja because they think the ninja are obviously baiting them. They go and they decide that they're going to try and just catch the ninja as they're trying to bait the skeletons instead. But the ninja knew that the skeletons were going to figure out that they were baiting them, so they left fake ninja there. But then they also somehow knew that the skeletons would figure out the bait and then still be able to go after them, and that's why they made another counteraction to them figuring that out. Samukai runs off, and then Garmadon's like, we need to make sweet on our deal. But Samukai is like, actually, I know the rules of the underworld, so you need me, or else, like, your time will be up too. So that is how easily he's getting out of this bet, so Samukai doesn't need to worry about this anymore. I sure hope Samukai lives a long, happy life after this. The Mask of Sensei. After the pilot, the ninja decide to go back to their respective villages for a quick rest before returning to their ninja stuff. This is when we start getting a little strange here. At Kai's, we have a little drop that Nia thinks she's gonna be something better than a ninja. I'm sure that will always hold up and she will never become a ninja. Oh my gosh. I should not be laughing at this. A man gets hit by an ox cart. It's Wu and Nia thinks that he's dead. It's not funny. Sensei Wu dying is not funny. Kai's worried and he wants the rest of the team there. Wu wakes up and he tells them that, oh, I was trying to get to all you guys and I came to you first. I figured out how to keep Ninjago safe and I need all the ninja here so they can hear about my awesome plan. So Nia leaves to go get the others while Kai hangs around with Wu. What's his plan? He is going to tax everyone. He goes around to the villagers and he's like, we need your monetary support. Not many people are able to afford this tax, of course, but Wu is blackmailing them a little bit by saying that you won't be protected by the ninja unless this happens, unless you can pay up, which is crazy. Kai doesn't seem to really question this though, even though Wu is acting very out of character. All the villagers are very mad at Wu, rightfully so. Before they can really revolt against him, Wu says, well, first of all, y'all should be richer, so skill issue. Second of all, you guys will probably miss out on this really sick treasure if you're not able to, which is that when I rule Ninjago, I will make this the capital and you will all live like kings. Kai now is like, I don't know, Wu, I feel like you're not really yourself. And then Wu kicks his ass. Just now, all the ninjas show up and they clock the fact that Kai's not present, and they're noticing that Wu is acting very strange, but they need some confirmation. So Cole asks him about tea, and Wu says, "Ugh, that is disgusting. That is not my Sensei Wu." So now they figured that out. And the ninja are given the side quest of going to find these 4 MacGuffins. We then see that Kai is tied up with Wu. What happened? Wu explains that in the underworld, there are these smoke creatures that can listen to memories and take shape of it. So this, of course, is who the strange Wu is. Some strange, unnamed smoke creature from the underworld. Got it. We have always known that that's a thing. Wu says that, well, eventually they get forced back into the underworld, so even when they do escape, it doesn't really matter, but you know, the only way actually though that they are able to stay out of the underworld is if they got these 4 objects. But like, why would someone go and get these 4 objects? That is what the ninja are going and getting. The ninja are also at the same time looking for Wu and Kai. The last thing they need is this scroll from the safest place in Ninjago. They can't figure out where to find that. The smoke guy tries to get a scroll from Wu, thinking Wu's the safest place in Ninjago. Is he though? He tries to go and get a scroll from Wu, but he's fooled by Kai and they get in a fight. All the ninjas show up. Apparently the smoke guy's weakness is his own reflection. Obviously. During this fighting, Nia needs to still get the villagers back on their side and stop following this fake Wu. And so, as the smoke guy reveals his whole plan to the ninja, Nia has found this gong from an ancient city that when you strike it, it sounds the last thing that your loved one heard. What? If that is not the most contrived plot device I have ever seen in my life, goodness gracious. But it works, and now all the civilians do not trust Wu. The ninja fight fake evil versions of themselves in the desert, which that's something they've never done before. They don't know how to defeat those. It's very funny because some of the panels here are just reversed art. Total time saver, but it's hard not to notice, and I found that quite funny. Kai does this one big move that turns the sand into a giant mirror, and it sends all the smoke creatures back, so now they won. And they say to Wu, oh, it would be very helpful if you told us things so we could be more prepared. But Sensei says, you should learn stuff for yourself. Got it. Hey, at least they're keeping this consistent with the show though, so far she knows something. Rise of the Serpentine follows Zane, of course, the best ninja, and unfortunately this comic is very lackluster, but it's made up for by the fact that we get to see Zane so much, so what's not to be happy about? He's on the run, and apparently he is the last hope to save Ninjago. What could have possibly happened? Certainly not something that completely contradicts the canon of the show. I can't wait to find out what that was. Just a week ago, Wu decided that he's going to send all the ninja on this little vacation, but it's not actually a little vacation. I'm assuming that, you know, the rest of the team kind of just figured that this was, but Cole points out the fact that, well, we found out that some dude apparently in this village is worried about his coworker because he doesn't think his coworker is the same person anymore. So they really should be investigating that and not just on a vacation. So of course, they go and do that. Apparently this guy who's not acting like himself has been drawing up plans for these strange vehicles. For that matter, actually a lot of people in this village are acting very strange. Jay notices something suspicious going on and goes to investigate that. Would you believe that he's gonna start acting weird after this little altercation with whatever was going on there. It's also very funny to me because when Zane is going and investigating stuff, he is talking to the shop owner, and apparently the shop's wife is acting very strange, and this guy, owns an instrument shop, and she's very against flute, but Zane rationalizes this as being like, maybe like the shop owner's wife is just very anti-flute. Why would that be the conclusion you have? But that is the most Zane thing I think I've probably heard. Zane does this whole dramatic retelling of all this, being like, if I had only known sooner, then I could have prevented all this. Babes, you're just being dramatic. Like, pack it up. It's okay. The ninja go investigate this warehouse. Jay's acting weird. They get attacked. Oh, would you believe it? All these guys are hypnotized. And oh, would you believe it? Jay is hypnotized too. And they're all invested in this, like, work that's going on. Jay gets briefly captured before all the villagers come to his aid. And then, yeah, we find out finally that they're all servants of the Hypnobrai here. There's these tunnels under the city that the ninja escaped to, trying to figure out how are we going to stop these snakes. Apparently there are still real snakes in Ninjago, which is something I've always wondered, but logistically, how does that make sense? And what is the difference between, like, a normal snake that you and I both know of versus, like, a serpentine? I don't know. Do they have the same rights? No, the serpentine don't have rights. That's crazy. The only thing I'm gonna point out here is they do flying spinjitzu so often in these, like, criminally often, way before air jutsu is ever a thing. I don't even want to get into all that and the whole fact that we never use air jutsu and they just nerf the ninja all the time, but they do it all the time in the comics. Free reign here. They're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how are we going to snap them all out of this hypnosis? Apparently bro doesn't know ball here. You need the venom in the staff. They conclude, actually, oh my gosh, duh, a bright light would do that. Girl, now what are we talking about here? Cole got taken and he has this scene in the, like, tunnel where he tries to, commit vehicle manslaughter against another ninja, but he doesn't succeed. And now it's just Zane and Kai, so they're gonna build this giant mirror to reflect the rising sun. Okay, cool. Mind you, at this moment, Scales is general right now, so they've already defeated the Hypnobrai before. They know how to do it, but they're still building this giant mirror. Kai gets lured into a trap. Zane figures out that that's a trap. He goes after him, but he wasn't there protecting the reflecting mirror thingy, so he comes back after Kai gets hypnotized and finds that the mirror's getting crushed, and now it's ruined, so now he's on the run, and yeah, record scratch over. This is where we have seen Zane on the run. He figures out that he'd saved Jay from his hypnotism by the reflection in his own shuriken, so now Jay and Zane are gonna go back and fix the mirror. They get back to the village and they have to fight the ninja briefly, and you can do, like, opposite moving spinjitzu in order to knock the other spinjitzu user off? What a strange concept, but it kind of makes sense. We are never gonna see that again. Jay and Zane managed to remake the reflector and all is saved. I'm only pointing this out because it's kind of strange. I don't know what it is with these comics and getting goop on the ninja. Cole got covered in glue during his fight with, I think, Zane. So, like, does someone have, like a fetish or something? Like, what is this? Don't worry, guys. If you wanted more confusing and contradictory lore, I got you. In Tomb of the Fangpyre, Wu admits that he failed his students because he didn't give them the full knowledge of the Serpentine, because they obviously need the history of everything in order to know how to best attack their enemy, and that knowledge is power. Right. Oh, so now we care. Anyways, apparently, like a millennia ago, there was this thing called the Serpentine Stone that inscribed it had the history of the 4 snake tribes. Yeah, 4. But nature rebelled against it and struck it down with lightning and broke it into 4 parts, so now people do not know the actual secret history of the Serpentine. So, all 4 ninja are gonna go and get their own stone each. It's a little funny. Kai runs off before he gets the complete info from Sensei Wu. This ADHD having. Apparently the stones are like dark and evil and also the journey is treacherous, but whatever. Kai gets there despite his shenanigans and wacky situations. He enters this cavern that has this giant statue of Fangtum, the Fangpyre general, and he does get his stone eventually, mind you, but his stone mentions that once when Ninjago was new, they must not have had a name for that time, something balance, and a lone snake crept up onto the land. That's it. Jay is flying in his little jet, but he gets grabbed down by this giant vine. He ends up in this forest. He's attacked by Fangpyres, but then the stones are moving and they take down the snakes. And then, of course, Jay naturally concludes that, oh, the part of this Serpentine stone must be controlling the forest, and that's why the trees are sentient, and that part of the forest is nice, but the other part is bad. I don't know. How do we know that? Whatever. Jay finds his stone, and on his it mentions that the darkness touched a little snake, and we've seen this before. It made it big and evil and infused it with the desire to conquer all Ninjago. It's the Great Devourer. Zane is in the cold northern oceans, and, he obviously knows Ball, and he meditates in cold water, so he's got this, by the way. I don't think he knows he's a robot at this point. That'd be very helpful. You don't have to breathe, buddy. It's okay. He gets attacked by a shark, and he suggests that the Fangpyres must have used their power to create this monster, but I'm not too sure that this is a snaky shark. Call me crazy. I'm not sure about that. Did they just spawn this in? I don't know. He manages to elude it and finds his stone. His stone adds on to the story and said that the big old snake reached out its power. How? What does that mean? Do not ask me. He reached out his power and created the 4 tribes. Yes, 4 tribes. And the snakes wanted to conquer all Ninjago because this, the Great Devourer wanted to conquer all Ninjago, so all its offspring gonna want to do that. But of course, this is the Great Serpentine War, and humans got flutes and they pushed them back into the tombs, and the big old snake, the Great Devourer, obviously, is waiting to return. Cole gets to this destroyed remnants of a once great city. He runs into Lloyd, and apparently Lloyd doesn't know, anything about what the Fangpyres want. He is just out here because he's looking for some candy. This is not a ruse. He is genuinely actually doing this. I really thought for a second that there was going to be a twist and he's working for the Serpentine here. No, he is at an abandoned city far out from Ninjago looking for candy. How stupid can we get? Whatever. They get attacked by snakes. And they find the stone, but they do get captured though. So, switching up the pacing of this story. Apparently, the Great Devourer became so legendary, but its foul act remains secret that it did. But the Fangpyre general, is like, I'm still gonna tell y'all because obviously you're not gonna get out of here. So, remember when the snake first got touched by darkness? Well, after that, it went and bit Garmadon. You might be thinking, don't we already know this? Yes, but we're acting like we don't. This is quite the lore drop for both Cole and Lloyd. They did not know this information prior. Okay. The thing is, though, and Cole naturally concludes this because wouldn't we all be thinking this? Because Garmadon was turned evil by a snake, then that must mean the blame for his evilness and therefore all his evil deeds would be put back on the snakes. And on top of that, apparently, the Great Devourer could give Lord Garmadon back all that he lost, like his family and honor and such, but only after he did something for them. Garmadon would have to do something super bad in order to become good again, but once he would do that super bad thing and become good again, he would feel really bad about the super bad thing that he did, and therefore it's just like a double-edged sword at that point. I don't know. That's all I got. The ninja all sneak attack the Fangpyre and save Cole and Lloyd. Fangpyre General is trying to escape, but Lloyd stops him before he can and says that he will tell his dad on him unless he gives him the last part of the Serpentine stone, and he also says that he won't tell the ninja that he saw him anyways, and that he will keep that a secret. The ninja, of course, asks Lloyd, how did you get the stone back? Lloyd's like, oh, he just disappeared even though he let him go. And they go back and they tell Wu about what happened and what the stone said. And Wu says, dang, I never realized any of that happened. He thought that Garmadon just turned evil because of his greed and ambition. Now what are we talking about? He's the one who revealed this information. Why? Why is this? I can't even. Next one. Kingdom of Snakes actually has a very interesting premise. You see, Jay is flying his jet through a lightning storm, and he ends up in an alternate dimension of Ninjago. He's complaining about the fact that the ninja often make fun of his inventions, and he low-key wishes he'd never became a ninja. Mind you, he gives us a very explicit tidbit that they have defeated the snakes at this point, so we're in season 2 territory, yet he has his nunchucks still. Right. Through this lightning storm, he comes across Constricti City. He sees Kai has an eye patch and he's working with a snake, and instead of, Jay thinking a little bit for just a moment, he doesn't. He jumps in right away and tries to save Kai, because he's thinking, obviously Kai's not working with a snake, because obviously Kai has an eye patch suddenly. Kai is obviously confused and tells the snake that he doesn't know who this guy is. And instead of, Jay thinking again, finally another chance to think, he does not. He then thinks, oh duh, Kai just must be deep undercover, despite the fact that he definitely left Kai having not gone undercover. Okay, Jay, you know what? Take your time. Kai does a little lore dropping for this alternate dimension, saying that he's been tracking down fugitives for a year now, and he also mentions that it's very weird that Jay would have the nunchucks of lightning because they have those back in Constricti City. So, right here, we're getting a little oriented on this timeline. We run into Cole, and the speech bubbles get messed up here. I was very, very confused for a moment. It's okay, guys. We all make mistakes. And Cole gives us further lore, saying that in this AU, when Wu found Cole first, and then he went after Jay in this world actually had his invention work. If you remember that little glider thing he had in his little pilot moment with Wu, yeah, it actually worked this time around. And because of that, he dismisses Wu because he thinks becoming ninja is worthless now because he's going to be a mentor, and that totally wrecks Wu's confidence because now he's thinking, I'm so self-conscious now, why would I, think that, 4 young men would become ninja, stupid, he's crazy for trying to make, a child army, but, I don't know if this is what would have deterred him. I think there were other moments he could have thought it over. The golden weapons were still found, but they were taken by Garmadon initially, and Cole still fought alongside Wu, trying to fight the snakes, but now Wu is suddenly missing, and Lloyd still released the Serpentine and all that. There was still the War of the Skeletons, and the Great Devourer was still released, and Garmadon still used the weapons against him, but the battle almost wrecked the entire planet. And so, despite, getting the Great Devourer, he still failed in the sense that the Serpentine got the weapons now. He apparently fled, and then therefore the snakes took over all of Ninjago. The reason Kai is sort of working for the Serpentine is because they have Nia hostage. Cole gets in a quick fight, and he is subsequently going to be taken, but Jay gets knocked out. We see that Garmadon is hanging out in this cave, looking out over the forest, and there is someone behind him being held hostage by him. This Garmadon, of course, goes and he finds Jay, and he tells him that he needs his aid, that he wants to try and take down the Serpentine. They are going to go after Zane first, and apparently in this universe, despite having never met the other ninja, Zane is an exhibit in the Serpentine City, and he is the amazing Zane.
I mean, I would go to that. Well, alright.
He accidentally attacks someone for startling him. Super funny and cute and adorable. He's incredible. Jay and Lord Garmadon find Zane, and Lord Garmadon says that he needs to invoke his army, the skeletons, to rise up against the snakes. And of course, they need Kai on their team as well in order to do this. 3 of them go to the underworld castle that's actually in the overworld, whatever, where Nee is being held. And again, Jay is able to use flying spinjitzu. We just keep doing that, you know what, guys, just do whatever. Nia, despite being held hostage, during this time, she actually was creating the Samurai X suit, so I guess that's an inevitability everywhere. The 4 theorize that Jay could possibly go back to his own world the same way that he came, but a storm like that would have to happen again, and like, how could they possibly make that happen? It's probably not going to happen for a while, but maybe they could actually possibly make it artificially, so put a pin in that. Zane, Lord Garmadon, and Nia decide that they're going to go rally the skeleton army while Jay goes and finds his former self in his home village. You and I both know that that boy lives in a junkyard. I don't know why we're calling that a village. But come to find out, when we go and find Jay's alternate universe self, yep, he is in a village. Before we get to that, you remember that guy that was being held in Garmadon's cave? He just broke out, and yeah, so that person tied up is Lord Garmadon, so who is with the gang currently? Jay finds his AU self, and his AU self is like, I'm not a hero. Girl, if you don't stop being dramatic for a second. We then cut to the 3 trying to figure out how to get Kai on their side. Zane decides best course of action is rage baiting Kai to get him away from the Serpentine in order for him to be reunited with his sister. Suddenly, the other Garmadon shows up though, and so now the 2 Garmadons are facing off each other. Who is who, and what is going on? We find out that, of course, the fraud Garmadon that we have been hanging out with this entire time is actually Sensei Wu. And he captured his brother to achieve his wild plan because he knew his brother was not going to be able to rally a skeleton army against the snakes. He's like, I need to do that myself, but the snakes aren't going to listen to me, so let me just kidnap my own brother and disguise myself as him to try and enact this plan in order to get the skeletons to rally against the snakes. There's then a giant battle with everyone present. Of course, both Jays are here. He managed to convince AUJ. Jay gets into this cave and he frees Cole while also getting the weapons back for everyone. They beat the snakes and all is better in this world, and now the snakes are running away to fight another day. AUJ is able to recreate a storm that is just as bad as the one that Jay flew into initially, and that works, and it gets him home safe and sound. He gets to see all his ninja friends, and he's like, wow, I really actually don't wish that I never became a ninja because it would have been crazy if I hadn't, and all is good. Warriors of Stone is a bit of a nonsensical mess. Aren't all of these? Well, it can get a little crazier. This is post-ending of Season 1, and the ninja is out here walking. They come across this land that is entirely made of stone, and it's called Garmadon City. Mind you, not named after the evil Lord Garmadon. Think back when Lord Garmadon was kind of chill in his youth. And also, apparently, Wu has a little bit of a possible explanation for why everything is suddenly turned to stone. Apparently, in Wu's youth, he had come across this tropical island that had since been turned into completely made of ice. Apparently touching this was like being burned like fire. Wu figured out that there were some ice ants that were buried underneath this island, and because of their sort of energy there, it had turned everything to ice, but Wu was able to explain that to them and that their home was actually further up north, and so they left. Of course, we need to be careful here because they will also turn to stone too just by being around this essence, and we see that Cole already slowly is. So it does make you wonder, how long does it take? Apparently, though, Zane is able to deduce that this rockification of everything started less than a day ago and it's spreading rapidly. Like, this will not just be contained into this village. So they go to try and investigate, but all his townspeople seem not only like completely unaware of what's happening to them, but they also seem very delirious about their pasts. Zane theorizes that perhaps their hearts have been turned to stone as well. Wu suddenly remembers something and is like, I need to go tell the ninja this, but he's grabbed by this giant stone arm and he's captured before he's able to warn the ninja. of course, whatever. There's also this very mysterious dude who we can assume is the bad guy, who goes up to the rest of the ninja and arrests them, of course. He throws them into a pit that is full of feathers. Okay, I'm sure there's a very natural and not strange explanation for that. The mysterious guy is now talking to Wu, and he says that he knew, apparently, that his own village was going to be turning into stone when they first initially found out about all this. And he knew this because he had heard of the story that Wu had already told us from his youth about the ice worms. You and I both saw we not only called it ice ants, but we also drew them as ice ants. And so why are we saying ice worms here? I mean, the sanctity of these graphic novels. There is a high standard that we uphold with these. Oh, whatever. He says because he knew the story already, that he knew it was going to happen, and because he knew it was going to happen, he convinced the mayor not to evacuate because he wanted this to happen. Don't really know why, don't get quite a motivation here, but because he already knew that this was all going to happen, that's the reason why he retained all his memories and no one else did. Wu then turns to stone, and he is caught up in the stone propaganda now that stone must rule and crush all others. Anyway, so back to the ninja in the feather pit. They figure out that the feathers are being fed through a pipe. So they go through the pipe and find out that this farmer is feeding feathers through the pipe because apparently this farmer got an anonymous letter saying that if he fed feathers through the pipe, he'd get paid for it, so he just did it without question. There are so many other reasons we could have had for this, but this is what we went with. The ninja decide that, okay, best course of action is that we go back to the village before, of course we need to stop the stun effect because eventually the stun effect is going to get to, this poor farmer and his feathers. They decide that they're going to go around and start telling all the villagers that they figured out how to reverse the stun stuff because that will lure out their foe. After doing so, they get a note to meet up at this sculptor's place, and they have a giant battle of statues, and Wu is the one who orchestrated the whole thing, stone needs to rule and whatever. Kai somehow figures out that he needs to trick Wu into going down this well because the stone effects are less effective down there because it's very deep in the ground. I don't know how he would know that this would happen, but we're going with it. Because Wu is not very stone-like right now, he tells them that they need to get to the tunnels under the city to find out the truth about what is going on here. And he doesn't give them an explanation, he just tells them that they need to just go and do that and leave him be. Thank you, Wu. I guess we're back on the whole train of you need to figure this out yourself. Got it. They get to the tunnels, and there's carving on the wall, and the mysterious guy shows up. Zane's the only one who's able to decipher all this, and as he's looking at the wall, he figures out that the stone army was created, and that the first Ninjutsu master had buried them, and so, the stone warriors presumably are buried underneath here. It also, apparently on the wall, foretells the fall of the ninja. And once Zane figures out that that is what is the case, everyone turns back to normal. It just suddenly happens. I'm not even playing. I thought for a moment I missed out on something. No. Once Zane reads that, everything is turned back to normal. Got it. So, as a ninja, we're all fighting these stone villagers. The villagers are like, oh, I'm normal again. What's going on? And, before the evil guy can run off, he gets captured, yada, yada, yada. Apparently, our explanation here is that nature had turned everything to stone around here in order to warn the ninja about the stone warrior's return. It doesn't feel like that should be the answer. We just had the whole story about the ice ants being buried underneath here, so I was expecting some stone thing. And I would have thought maybe the stone warriors infected the city. No, nature decided that it needed to warn the ninja, so it suddenly turned this city in particular into stone. Zane does not give this information up to everyone else. He is worried, though, of course, for their chances against an actual stone army when they already struggled against these typical little baker, farmer villagers. So the stone army has got to be a pretty big deal if it means that the ninja will fall against them. These comics really make the Stone Warriors out to be a more long-time threat of the ninja, which they are not in the show. The ninja are currently getting beat up by the Stone Warriors. Mind you, Lloyd, as the Green Ninja, still has not made his appearance in these, which doesn't really make sense at this point with the Stone Warriors. He is very, 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 very important, but of course, we're just not seeing him, and the ninja apparently have been fighting them for a while, just completely on their own. They get back to the camp, having been defeated, and Wu is like, guys, I've been lying to you.
Yeah, don't worry, you're gonna keep doing that.
See, apparently, Garmadon actually isn't the only bad guy out there. Wu was like, surprise, I actually have a ton of ops. And, you know, long time ago, they all used to be contained in the Tower of Tears. Crazy name, by the way. Also, apparently, only a Spinjitzu master would be able to get out of this tower. I don't know what that means, but take that for what that is. Apparently, though, at some random point, this tower got exploded, and they all got freed. So Wu is gonna let the ninja finally know about all the other bad guys that they should be worried about. Back then, when this had all occurred, of course, Wu was warned through a note that left him riddles on how to find each of the bad guys. I'm gonna do my best to pronounce these names. Never have heard them out loud. I'm just gonna go off of vibes. The first one that Wu finds is Conan the Invincible. It's this 6-armed dude who Wu is actually able to take out very quickly just by tying him up. I don't know if that really makes you invincible, man. Conan reveals some kind of clue on how to go find this other dude who is like a time ninja. That's interesting. I'm sure we'll never have a time ninja again, so totally okay for us to do this here right now. Apparently this dude became the time ninja because he exposed himself to the Chrono Crater, thinking that it was gonna make him immortal, but it actually just gave him the ability to live a second ahead of everyone else. I guess that's a good power, but 1 second? Wu was able to stop this time ninja by setting a trap that takes longer than a second for the guy to escape from, and now Wu is thinking that there must be someone who is orchestrating this entire thing behind the scenes, but he doesn't know which of his bad guys is doing so. Wu goes back to his dojo to try and rest for a moment, but he actually gets attacked by his own staff, and his staff is being controlled by Cardinsto the Wizard, who has nature powers. I'm sure that power also never come up again. This guy literally obliterates Wu in his own dojo. He walks away, presuming that Wu is dead. Wu, of course, is not dead. He escapes, so he goes after Cardinsto, and he's able to stop him by digging holes into the ground, in which he awakens this giant beast that was underneath the ground and attacks the wizard. The wizard is not able to control this giant beast because this beast is older than nature itself, so his nature powers don't work on that. And so as it gets taken hostage by the beast, Wu says, I'll save you, but you gotta give me some info. And Cardinsto agrees, but then this beast suddenly is falling asleep because apparently it can only be awake for 60 seconds. Alright, moving on. Wu is trying to get the name out of Cardinsto of who all his foes are working for. Before Cardinsto can say anything, he gets exploded into a bunch of swords and bones. Okay. Wu tries to sleep, but he keeps thinking about everything. He's trying to piece it all together. He then gets jumped by a couple more of his foes, which includes a swarm of bees. When was he beefing with a swarm of bees? I don't know. He tries to jump in a river to escape. Oh, look, there's the Barracuda. He then runs away from them. And eventually, he is so exhausted that he does just fall asleep, and he dreams about the fire dragon. Even in a comic that's completely not about Kai, Kai's main character energy is still well and alive. The fire dragon is trying to convince him that, like, come on dude, just sleep forever. Why not? Why keep fighting? You're just going to always fight so many people. I mean, think about the people you've already had to fight, and then like how many people more after that. Like, you know, you already had to fight the Beast of 1,000 Eyes, and that's when Wu clocks it, because he's like, I haven't fought the Beast of 1,000 Eyes yet. Then our next foe is revealed. He's like, dang it, you got me. I'm Garon, the Dreamer. They have this battle that is actually objectively very crazy. A fight in a dream world is actually kind of a really insane concept, and they do kind of roll with it. Because you're dreaming, you can basically conjure up whatever you want. But of course, the Dreamer has way more control over everything going on, so he is able to make it so Wu has not only forgotten Spinjitzu, but apparently he can choose to power up his own attack by making it so that it will hurt Wu for 10 to 20 years.
What?
Despite all this, Wu still figures out that Garan is not the master behind everything after all. He tackles Garan and they are free falling. And Wu has this very cold line where he says that falling's not the problem, it's just a sudden stop. Excuse me? Apparently we have fall damage though in the comics. Usually not in the show, that is usually not the case. Also, random side bit of lore, apparently at the bottom of the dream world, that's where all the happy people dream. I don't know, but Garan doesn't like them because they're just happy and you can't really mess with that. Okay, whatever. Somehow though, Wu managed to wake up. But actually, I mean, we all can tell immediately that he actually didn't wake up because he sees a younger Garmadon. You know, this is the Garmadon before the snake has bit him. As Sensei Wu would say, mess with time, you know, you're gonna change everything in the past and change everything about the future, that's a bad idea, but apparently Wu doesn't care about that right now because he's like, okay, Garmadon, make sure you watch over snakes and never desire the golden weapons. His first thought, assuming that he just went back in time, is talking to younger Garmadon, is that he's like, you know what, what's a good idea? Let me mess with the timeline. Okay, Wu, that seems like a really terrible idea, but whatever. Garmadon though is like, the golden weapons? Yeah, those were destroyed in the attack with the 60-foot slime deer. Now what in the hell is that? Suddenly, some guards bring in these 4 troublemakers that they said need punishment, and mind you, at this point, Wu has not even met the ninja yet, but he comes into this room and sees that the ninja are here, because apparently subconsciously, Wu in his dream is still thinking about how oh, in the future I am going to be doing this and looking for these 4 ninja. So it just kind of conjured them up, and that's how Wu realized that he was actually dreaming after all. And of course, Garan is like, you got me, and he forces him to wake up. Wu then is driven more than ever to try and go after all his foes. He rounds them all up, goes to a bunch of different places, kind of cool. He fights this Mask of Malice, which is only interesting because apparently beating it destroys all evil. Now, what do you mean by that? By the end of this, of course, Wu is now the greatest hero in Ninjago, but he's also the only one who's defending Ninjago, you know? He still needs to get the ninja team at some point. But apparently, the whole ploy here was that Wu needed to get so confident and so busy fighting all these other enemies that he would go against a crusade on them, get so distracted that he would not see his real enemy coming. And he finds this mirror and he sees Garmadon in it, because apparently mirrors are windows into the underworld. Got it, we've always known this. And of course it was Garmadon's plan for Wu to get super overconfident, because then that meant that he would be not looking towards Garmadon to see what he's planning on. Like, you know, Garmadon at this point is still trying to return to Ninjago. There's a quick fight with Garmadon's illusion, but of course he's obviously not able to land any blows on it, so it's really not much of a fight. And he is demanding that his brother, you know, come out and actually fight the real deal, but Garmadon's like, no, just wanted to taunt you, but just know that I will be returning. And who knows when or where. Woo. I guess it makes sense, you know, Garmadon is the one who was behind this. After all, I mean, it was probably never going to be a great villain, but we did start this off being like, I need to tell you about everything and all the other villains that you could face, and that Garmadon's not the only bad guy, but Garmadon did orchestrate everything. It is kind of like the only bad guy because he got all the other bad guys to work for him. Whatever, not important. Wu repairs the mirror that Garmadon had once possessed, and in doing so, when he looks into it, he sees all the foes that the ninja will eventually face.
Little bit of spoilers there, but...
Does Wu tell them about these foes that they will eventually face? Knowing him, he probably does not. Destiny of Doom is a comic that I remember mostly for its cover rather than the context of it, and having reread the contents, all I can think is, what is going on? And I think that for most of these, but what are we doing? This takes place 1 month after the events of the final battle. Garmadon, of course, is good now, and Wu tells him that he could be a good sensei for the ninja, you know, because he can train them in ways that Wu himself cannot, but this doesn't quite seem like what Garmadon wants to do yet. Kai, though, despite everything, is still a Garmadon hater. He still thinks that maybe there's something bad going on after all. Suddenly, Garmadon remembers, uh-oh, I had this contingency plan for just in case I didn't take over Ninjago. Oops! And so he's gonna go after it. He doesn't initially ask anyone to go with him, but of course they all go, and Kai, of course, is being very much himself and very, very, very untrusting. Apparently, he had built this giant weapon and split it up into a few different parts. And so when they go after the first part, it comes out of the ground, and it is what appears to be a giant floating purple Roomba with blades. They aren't able to stop this first part, but Garmadon finds an ignition key that would have started it manually, but apparently now that not being the case, it can teleport them places, so Garmadon quickly teleports them to the next location, and we find a giant Lego torso that of course looks like Lord Garmadon, and this torso is able to shoot blasts, and it briefly picks up the ninja, but then drops them, and all I can really think is how funny this looks. At this point, the ninja are like, this is crazy, what is going on here? They're kind of getting very like, Garmadon is evil pilled, just by Kai being very untrusting, and overall thinking that Garmadon's intentionally letting each of these pieces, pass them by. Lloyd, though, is still trying to defend his dad. Welcome back, Lloyd, by the way. Everyone's like, I don't know, maybe Kai has a point. Garmadon gives us a little backstory. He says that him and Samukai had built this in the underworld. Of course, this being a contingency plan in which it would enact itself if Garmadon was ever taken down. And technically speaking, Garmadon being turned good does kind of count as him, being taken down. So it's enacting itself now. And apparently, they both decided that they were going to hypnotize themselves into forgetting that they ever built this, and so that's why Garmadon just randomly recalled that he had created this in the first place. I generally just thought he had ADHD, but alright, we hypnotized ourselves. This giant weapon's main goal is to activate the magma layers underneath Ninjago and flood everything with magma and just destroy everything. So just imagine, if Lord Garmadon thought that he was maybe gonna die someday, he was like, well, might as well destroy the absolute entire planet, but I can't have it, no one can. That is insane. They find the next piece of this weapon, and of course, would you believe it, it's a giant head of Lord Garmadon. There's a line here of, love yourself much, which generally made me giggle. They decide that the best thing they can do is to try to just pummel on this thing and see if that breaks it. It does not. It's very impenetrable, very, very strong. The head suddenly wakes up, and they get the bright idea that, well, actually no, maybe if we just make it fall further to the ground, it already being in the ground and coming out of the ground, maybe if we just make it even further in the ground, it just won't come out. Don't know about that logic, boys, but alright. They do so as the torso is showing up, and they knock it off balance and falls deeper into the earth. And for some reason, I think that this kind of works, but they're still gonna camp out to see if it actually did work. Of course, it didn't, and it just wakes up. Kai finally confronts Garmadon, because he still thinks that Garmadon is intentionally making them lose to this. Garmadon calls him out because he's like, it's a very terrible idea because, this giant weapon is coming alive right now, and instead of attacking that and trying to stop it from doing what it has planned, Kai decides that he'd rather just fight Garmadon instead. And Garmadon calls out the behavior and says that, what a strange thing to do. And also he's like, I already blame myself enough, like, I don't need you to do this too. Garmadon thinks he has something to prove to everyone, and so he obviously wants to be the one to stop this himself. It's kind of killing me because Lloyd's hair hasn't changed from his young kiddo model. At this point, we are well aware that his hair changed when he got suddenly older, so I don't know why we're doing this in this comic. Garmadon goes off the weapon, it's finally all together, and he knows that the rockets that are propelling it have a certain seconds in between, in which he has a tiny window where he can try to cut some wires and just make this thing fall apart. Garmadon is able to get inside the rockets, he is able to cut the wires, and in a very short time frame, of course, and this machine fails and it falls to its demise. After doing so, the ninja are like, guess you were good after all, but Garmadon says that he needs time to himself to try and figure out who he is, and we're in this area in which we know that this is where Garmadon is going to be building his own little dojo temple place that we do see in season 3. So I guess, technically speaking, this is canon, and this is the backstory behind Sensei Garmadon. Night of the Nindroids is the type of comic that really riles me up.
Gotta be real honest. I am ready to defend my man. So let me explain to you what we got going on here.
Jay is low-key committing some microaggressions towards Nindroids. And apparently everyone at some point, somehow, decided that Zane has no feelings. Where did we get this conclusion from?
We all know that Zane is a very, very specifically interesting and unique and perfect and amazing individual. And so calling him and saying that he does not have feelings, oh, it makes me... Don't even get me started.
But of course, we're dealing with the Nindroids now. This is season 3. They have cut the power to the city, so it helps to try to stop the Overlord a little bit, and they need to go report back to Cole. However, before Zane is able to go and do that, the Overlord stops him, communicating through this iPad, I guess, that the Nindroids are holding, and the Overlord tells him that, let me cut you a deal. If Zane is to defeat the ninja, then the Overlord will help him possess a human body so that he can become human. Didn't realize that that was a thing that Zane was worried about. Zane, of course, refuses this and goes back to his team. When he gets back to his team, he tries to talk to Cole, but Cole's ignoring him because he's very worried about everything. Cole's the leader of the team here. Only thing that they keep consistent in these graphic novels. Strangely enough, Cole is more of a leader here than he is in the actual show. Cole alludes to the fact that it must be so nice for Zane because he doesn't have worries. He's not capable of doing that.
He's not a human.
That's crazy, guys. Zane starts getting into his head about the fact that he actually isn't a human. He can't get bruised like everyone else can. He can't keep up spirits by saying something humorous. And he certainly can't worry like their leader does. Because of this, Zane is so insecure, he decides that he is going to accept the Overlord's offer. And he tells the Overlord that, my plan is I want to possess Kai in the end. Okay, as far as we're aware, Zane genuinely believes this. So he has some very dark narration going on here. He shoos away Nia, saying that he doesn't want her to get involved in all this. It's going to get really messy. He takes Cole on a quote-unquote mission alone. Of course, this is Zane's way of ambushing him to get captured. And he says a very cold line that, you all must fall so I can truly live.
Whoa.
You know what, guys? I think I might still defend Zane here. Cole gets captured, and Zane notes that there is this Nindroid here that is kind of watching them all to make sure that Zane actually goes through with this, but someone attacks said Nindroid, but we don't see who. Zane does a little lore drop very quickly and says that his systems were designed so that he can last for several decades, which I'm just going to keep that in mind when I want to talk about the ninja and their ages, because this is a lot to try to figure out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Zane convinces Lloyd and Garmadon to leave. This is a bonus comic, actually, for the end of this, so stay tuned for that. Zane goes after Jay next by gaslighting Jay into thinking that Cole and Nia are currently on a date. Zane, of course, attacks Jay. Jay is captured, but in all this, Kai ambushes Zane. It's a very dramatic moment, because he knows that Zane is slowly taking down each and every one of them. Apparently, Zane saved Kai for last because he knew that his emotions were so uncontrollable that he'd be very easy to manipulate. Of course, all the ninja are caught now, and Zane's cruel plan to defeat the ninja and possess Kai's body is now coming to fruition. And they're in this giant warehouse with all the Nindroids in attendance. This is when the ninja hit us with the, now Zane, and they all break out and they fight the Nindroids because this was obviously gonna be a double cross in the first place. Zane only pretended to go along with the Nindroids to get them all in one place so they could fight them. But, oh wait, hold on. The ninja actually just got captured again. Did Zane? Zane, you didn't. Zane, though, goes to this giant switchboard and figures out that, oh, if I press this one button, it will shoot all the Nindroids. So he staged a triple cross in order to do that, to get closer to the board to defeat the Nindroids. Sure. Nia shows up and frees them all again. Nia apparently had known that Zane was planning this in the first place because they, off-screen, had made up a code in case either of them was in trouble. I like their dynamic as friends, but it's just funny that we're just getting this little lore here that apparently the code they have is that they're going to say a number and then you need to figure out which words in which I'm saying is what the secret message is, and so she paid attention to every fourth word that he had said to her prior and figured out that she needs to follow him around and take out the Nindroids and then eventually help them in the final plan. And all in all, at the end of the day, they defeat some of the Nindroids, but not all of them because we have not gotten to the end of the season yet, so this comic can't get too crazy now. In our bonus comic, we see Lloyd and Garmadon trying to bond. It's a little hard because, you know, they're trying to do all the stuff that they missed out on because Garmadon wasn't a present father, but it's really kind of not working out in their favor. They try to play a little catch like baseball. He says that whoever gets the first touchdown wins. Okay. But they're both too good, so no one scores. And they try to go fishing as well, but it also goes too well, so it's not great. They try to play catch, but it's diabolical because both these two boys are very powered up. They try to bond over their childhoods, being Lloyd wondering, what did you want to be when you grew up? And Garmadon was like, oh, like, I mean, I was like always like evil, so like probably like take over Ninjago, which is like, what an uninteresting answer. It's true though, but come on now. Lloyd at the end of it is just very upset because he was like, you're never there, and now that you are there, we can't even have a basic father-son day. Garmadon tells him that, well, you know, guess we were never a normal family. Haha. Apparently that works enough for Lloyd, and they're chill. Alright, fine. I'm addressing the elephant in the room. Next up, we have Who is the Phantom Ninja? Is this one canon? Apparently, everything apart from the Dark Island Trilogy and possibly Who is the Phantom Ninja are not considered canon, so these are the only two that are. However, that's not very clear necessarily. Can't find this tweet, which is really fun. Tommy apparently has read this comic specifically and says that it can be considered canon. Okay, and it's gonna get a little dicey in a second, so let me just catch everyone up to speed and then we can tackle that afterwards. The ninja are investigating this village because apparently some Nindroids have been spotted there, and they're curious as to why they are so interested in such a small village. All the ninja are in attendance, besides Lloyd, who I'm just gonna pretend is on the run still, as he is in the show. But Nia's here as well, so gotta love that. As they're investigating though, they find out that there's this phantom ninja that has been protecting the villagers from the Nindroids. They find out some lore. This factory apparently has been operating in the middle of the night. It's making Nindroids. They usually get truck shipments coming in though every night, so the ninja are gonna try and ambush the next one. In doing so, the Phantom Ninja actually shows up at the same time. The Phantom Ninja is really ready to deal out some serious, lethal justice onto the truck driver, but the ninja are like, is the driver really like in on it, or is he forced? But Phantom Ninja does not really hold their same values, but I digress. They don't manage to off this poor truck driver, which is great. Before disappearing though, because you know, Phantom Ninja is very phantom-like, they point out that they're obviously fighting very different wars. So the Phantom Ninja is kind of more of like a morally gray hero, I suppose. Cole is very concerned about why the entire village is working for the Nindroids, so he wants to figure out that whole side of things. But they go to this one guy's house and he gives us some lore. He says that the Nindroids took the village overnight and they are holding hostage the mayor and the mayor's daughter, Seliel. And they're all forced to work for the Nindroids or else the mayor and the mayor's daughter will get hurt. Shortly after all that went down, that's when the Phantom Ninja showed up and no one knows who that is. Zane, of course, is super smart and incredible, and he has a theory about who the Phantom Ninja is, but he's not going to tell us. Gosh, he's so coy and mysterious. They all split up. Nia's trying to find the mayor and the mayor's daughter. Jay and Kai are trying to go in to the power plant to turn all the power off, and then Cole and Zane are trying to find the Phantom Ninja. Jay and Kai are attacked at the power lines, and Kai does I think I pronounced this correct, a maelstrom. Very interesting, didn't know he could do that, but apparently he can. And of course, subsequently, is going to cut off the power. Good for him. Proud of him. Nia gets caught. Why would she ever not, you know? Even in the comics, Nia cannot catch a break. Zane and Cole are sneaking into the factory, and of course, power outage goes out, and the factory starts to get evacuated, and of course, Cole and Zane are gonna get figured out, but the Phantom Ninja shows up, and Cole is very displeased about the timing, despite the fact that he was planning on trying to go after the Phantom Ninja, but whatever. All the ninja convene on the factory's location. They all get in a giant fight. They then see that Nia's being held hostage, and they're all worried, but Nia's like, ugh, I'll just free myself. I'm gonna literally just jump off this building. Maybe we think about this for another second longer, but of course, both Cole and Jay go after to try and catch her, and it's the stupid love triangle. We can't go without that for 1 second. Nia said that she figured out where the Phantom Ninja was hiding. They were actually coming out of the factory, so they stake out, and Cole finds the Phantom Ninja as the Phantom Ninja is exiting the factory, and he unmasks the Phantom Ninja as Seliel. Who saw that coming? Not me when I was younger, apparently not. They fight. Cole is like obviously concerned because it's very dangerous to be doing that, putting your village and your father at risk, but Seliel is like, no one else could do it, so I had to step up. And he warns her that, you know, she needs to be a little smart about things because, you know, the Nindroids won't be gentle. And he says that they, of course, should all work together. And they're going to stop these Nindroids once and for all. Seliel helps plant a trap for the Nindroids. She lures them away from the factory, and as the ninja are all fighting the Nindroids out in, like, a forest, Seliel shows up and reveals that she saved her dad after they all left, so now they have nothing to hold over the village's heads. The ninja tell the Nindroids that they need to leave, or else they're going to be returned to the Overlord in a box. A very small box. Crazy threat, by the way. I know they're robots, and it's like, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about you, Zane. Like, I would, like, never mean that. I would never imply. But, you know, at the end of the day, these guys are robots, so it's like, you know, dismantle them, send a small box for the Overlord. Like, that's not really killing them, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Because the village now is going to be protected forever by Seliel, because she's such a baddie. Seliel gives us a little lore drop that she was inspired by the ninja when they had first, you know, defeated the skeleton army, and so since then she's trained and made her own smoke, which is what she uses to be phantom-like. And, you know, she started sneaking out, of course, after they got captured, and she did so while her dad was sleeping, and she went and fought the Nindroids. Seliel had shown Cole one of the Nindroid arms that they had been building in the factory. The arms, of course, are hollow, therefore meaning that everything they're building here was just a ruse. It entirely was just some decoy enacted by the Overlord in order to completely distract the ninja from the Overlord's actual plan. So while we do get this really sick new character, this was all kind of for nothing, but the ninja try to convince her to join their team, but of course she's not canon to the show, so she insists on staying in this village that we will never see. But she says that if you ever need me, just call me, and then she disappears in smoke. They are not going to call her. I wish. We get 2 epilogues here, which is a little interesting. Seliel's talking to her dad, and her dad is like, that was so dangerous what you did. Seliel says, but the ninja couldn't be everywhere, so she has to fight too. Then her dad says, do you think you'll ever see them again? And she looks up at this shooting star, and she wishes that hopefully someday she will. Shooting star is actually a comet, and what Seliel doesn't know is that the ninja on that comet at this very second are fighting their strongest fight ever. Whoa, chills, dude. Elephant in the room. I know I've been a little coy about it. Elephant in the room. Is this canon? Like, what's going on here with Seliel? So while perhaps this comic could be considered canon, there's nothing that will ever be canon about it to the show. We all saw that coming. However, this is a very strange thing that we have going on here for ourselves, so let me explain it. Tommy has stated that Seliel will never have relevance to the show. So of course that would suggest she's not canon. However, in Tommy Andreason's own story that he had hoped to have actually be published, but it never did, Way of the Departed, he includes her as part of it. Okay. But the real reason here why she never really showed up in the show is primarily because she would technically be wasting screen time because they don't have anything for a character to flesh out. That's a fine enough reason. I can totally understand that. However, at a different point in time, apparently Tommy Andreason had teased that maybe Samurai X in Hands of Time was Seliel.
which is just a crazy mean thing to do, considering the fact you had no intention of making her canon. I digress. Where's this tweet? Gone. It's mentioned in the wiki. I'm willing to believe that it's there, and I'm not going to dig through Tommy's Twitter. But, of course, Seliel's impact is not going unnoticed and completely unaddressed, which makes it another interesting thing. Of course, mind you, people shipped her with Cole. And, you know, I did when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I'm like, there is nothing between them that warrants a ship. Even Tommy Andreasen thinks that there's nothing about them that's romantic, which I agree with wholeheartedly now. But again, of course, never really need too many interactions to constitute a ship, so by all means, go off a vibe and a dream, guys. However, Seliel has some prominence in the actual licensed stuff about Ninjago. She appears in the Ninjago set Samurai X Cave Chaos, where her mask appears on one of the computer screens. And she's in Fortnite. I have never played Fortnite before. Unfortunately, I am not going to just for the sake of a YouTube video. I know, boo me, I'm not a real fan, I'm fake. Apparently, what she does in Fortnite, and this is just what I'm figuring out, she acts as an NPC that helps you figure out one of the building mechanics, so not necessarily saying, hey guys, I'm from the comics and I'm part of the show. You know, the hit character Seliel that everyone knows. She's more of an Easter egg technically, but I mean, I'm not saying Fortnite is canon to the Ninjago sphere, but it is a licensed thing of theirs. So I don't know, guys. But that's all to say that clearly there was something really good going on in this comic. And, you know, when I think about the Ninjago comics, this is one of the first ones I think of because she's just so iconic in my mind. And I'm not the only one to think this. People like her a lot. Rightfully so. I mean, a strong female character? I mean, gosh, we sure know we needed more of those in the original run of Ninjago. And, you know, I do appreciate the nods to her in some official licensed stuff. It's cool to see her in Fortnite, despite the fact I'm never going to see it for myself personally, but when I found out about that, I was actually very touched by that. I thought that was very sweet of them to include her. It's unfortunate she was never part of the show, and I'm assuming at this point never will be. I wish there was something better for her than just this strange limbo that she's in, but again, as we've already discussed, what can you do? You can't have something hinging on a canon that is from a comic because most people aren't going to know about this. So hopefully any of you guys who didn't know about Seliel before can like her a little bit now because I think she's very sick. Comet Crisis is like that one episode of Rebooted, except not at all because, I mean, Lloyd isn't even here. It's a little fun twist to it, I guess, but this is clearly not canon in the slightest, so the plot basically is the same as the episode where they're stranded on the comet now, trying to get back as the Nindroids have already left with the golden weapons. I'm gonna try to give an easier rundown to all this. They are splitting up to go try to find food and shelter. They know there's nothing to find. Cole's just trying to keep them preoccupied as Jay works on the rocket. This is not what they do in the show, but I digress. Kai ends up falling into this ravine and then he shows back up and is acting very strange, but no one's quite noticing that yet. He tosses Cole's scanner away and he doesn't clock that that's a really weird thing to do. Jay tells us that Pixel told him that they are missing an important part of the rocket, that if they tried to launch it without this very specific part, then the whole thing would explode. By the way, this is the only mention of Pixel in the entirety of all the graphic novels. Zane says that since there's no other life on this asteroid, that means that one of them sabotaged the group, because how else would it be missing? Cole ends up having it on his person. Obviously, we know he's framed, but what's going on? They go and chase after him, and the real Kai wakes up in the ravine, and that's when we're clued into the fact that, oh my god, wait, there's an imposter among us. Oh my god, wait, so does that mean that Red is sus?
As Jay is trying to fix the rocket, he somehow gets tricked into thinking that Nia is there somehow. Don't know why he would think that. How did she get here? He doesn't worry about it because Nia baits him into the fact that she's like, I actually always liked Cole better, so... Like, why does Jay even believe this? And why are we bringing up the stupid love triangle? Now we all know that there's some alien who is pretending to be them, and this alien just wants them to stay on the asteroid forever, so he's gonna sabotage them in any way that they possibly can. Apparently this asteroid that they're on used to be part of a planet, and so parts of it can move, not really addressed, it's just sentient somehow. And it came from a planet that had like blown up, and it's implied that it's this shape-shifting alien's fault. Strange. They find themselves in an underground tunnel where they see some hieroglyphics or whatever about beware of the one of many forms, which is obviously this alien. And we mentioned the Phantom Ninja, which is cool, makes sense. We just had the comic in which she was a part of, and the alien really just wants them to entertain him, basically, and they're very worried because, you know, if they can't tell that the alien is a part of them, then the alien is going to sneak onto the rocket and destroy all of Ninjago, like he did the other planet. Zane, of course, obviously he's going to figure out what needs to be done. I mean, come on, he's like, perfect. Sorry. He enters a wager with the alien saying that, you know, shapeshifted to me, and if you can beat me with my own powers, like, then we'll stay. But as the alien shapeshifts into Zane, it really messes with him because apparently trying to take on the form of a Nindroid just really messes up his entire system trying to recreate all that. So I guess, like, you know, it's just like really big shoes to fill to try to be Zane. Like, it's just like really, he's like one of one. And Colt has a little dramatic moment where he's like, somewhere along the way, we remembered who we are and we're able to get off that rock. I don't think we did that. I think we just found the part that was needed to fly off on the rocket. I think that's what happened, but what do I know? This one confuses me the most because of how blatantly it just disregards canon. Yes, it's not the only one to contradict the show, but at least you could argue that the other graphic novels took place in between the episodes we got or between the seasons. However, we know exactly when this one takes place because it rips the premise from the final 2 episodes of season 3, and it just changes the fallout and conclusion the ninja make in order to return to Ninjago. It's just crazy! I don't understand how this gets published with something so glaringly obvious as this. Why did we not come up with an entirely different story here? Like, come on. At this point in time, we are going to switch over to Little Brown, which is books for young readers. These, of course, lasted from 2015 to 2017, and generally speaking, they're not strictly graphic novels because they are pretty much just republishing comics from the first 16 issues of the Ninjago magazine. Though, however, the wiki does lump them in with the rest of the graphic novels, so I think they're semi-considered to still be part of the main run, but they're their own beast, let's just say. These are more so just for fun, not super canon, not really trying to do too much here, but they still need to be included nevertheless. They are extra weird because characterization really just gets thrown out the door. We're really just dealing with the ninja moving through the plot rather than their choices being their own. They're kind of just like, time for me to do this thing, and they just do it because they need to do it. The first one we have is Tournament of Elements. Chen kidnaps Garmadon, and the ninja are forced to go after him, of course, because in an hour, if they don't rescue him in time, he is going to be plunged into the sea, so he might low-key die. They, of course, run into weird obstacles along the way, because they're just going to be fighting basically every single other elemental master at the Tournament of Elements. Kai somehow gets Karloff pinned under a boulder, and they also have to help Skylar out of a spider's web. We're kind of just doing things. As we're getting closer to Garmadon, Cole is somehow able to use an earthquake to get them out of the water. I'm not sure if that works that way, but when they get to this Garmadon in this cage over the sea, he's actually a hologram, and now they're like, oh, we actually need to go into the woods, and there's like buzzing, and there's snakes in the woods. Not real Serpentine. We have real snakes, I guess. Lloyd pricks himself on a thorn, and he falls asleep, and in his dream, Nia's there, and he figures out he's dreaming because he sees a giant henchman, and then he wakes up, and it's way later, but okay. They go into this cave, they fall in the water, Cole is eaten by a fish at one point, and he spinjitsus out of it. They then go through the underwater cave and they end up back in Chen's fortress, where Garmadon congratulates them with a feast. Everything seems fine and they totally believe that everything is fine. They then get attacked by the Master of Smoke because this was not just a normal feast, and they fight rats and cows. My notes here get very, 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 very bare. I have what? Plants? Zane is there? It's actually the Master of Form. They defeat all the elemental masters, and then Garmadon is like, well, I guess since they saw Zane, like, that must be proof that he actually is on here, and that we have to keep fighting in the tournament anyways, and now that we know that there's more dangers on the island than we knew prior. I don't know what's going on here, but I guess technically speaking, this doesn't contradict with canon, so... And if you thought that one was weird and we couldn't go downhill more, oh, don't worry. In the Ghost Ninja, I don't even know what to say. Somehow one of the guards at the Cryptarium Prism is very careless and lets out all the evil baddies, so the ninja go after all of them and catch them. There's really not much going on here, they just do it. But Skylar is mentioned, which I love to see that. They're eating at her place, and then she, locks Captain Soto in the back of her truck, and she'll drive him back to the prison, which, good on her! We then have Ninja in Dreamland. They're not masters of Urjutsu yet, so just orient yourself there in the timeline, because this obviously is very crucial to that. They follow possessed Lloyd through a portal, which then they're somehow falling down a hole, and it makes them all sleepy. But Nia's the only ninja that actually falls asleep, and they all Urjutsu out and they save her. Again, of course, she is always gonna be in trouble. Even in the comics, she does not get a win. Oh my gosh. Her eyes have turned green though as she wakes up, and she's possessed by Banshee, so she fights all the ninja. They of course kind of make her snap out of it. Nia suddenly uses her powers, and the force of it knocks out all the ninja, and then it makes her kind of weak, so then now Nia's captured. We couldn't have one nice thing for 1 second for her. But all the ninja are making it back to Ninjago City to try and get her. It's not funny. They almost get hit by a truck, and in doing so they're like, what's going on here, guys? They go over to this man who is painting on the sidewalk, and he's painting this picture that is all black, but somehow, like, Nia is able to show up in it, and she tells them not to come find her, but then they see that there's actually a map in the back of the painting, so they go and find her, and they go to a chocolate factory. I mean, what is happening anymore at this point? They fight all the ghosts, it's obviously a giant trap, and Zane is obviously, like, incredible and just amazing at everything that he does, so he's able to perfectly throw his arrow blade and save Nia, so... As all of the ninja get captured, Zane and Nia are the ones who get out of there, and then they're like, oh wait, we should probably go back and, like, stop the ghost. Like, yeah, no kidding. They incidentally break the water tower, and they're like, oh, perfect, like, that's actually, like, great. Like, let's just let all the water flood in, and it kills all the ghosts, and it just ends. We then have Mirror Mirror. The ninja are taking rests in between missions. They still don't have Lloyd back, and me personally, I wouldn't rest until we got Lloyd back, but I guess I'm just a different person. This family has a very strange mirror, and Loki attacks this one lady's family, and she goes and runs and tells Wu about it. Apparently, Moro has possessed this mirror. I don't know why he's doing that, but he has, and he's been trapping people inside there. Cole is able to go through the mirror, though, because, he's a ghost, and he saves someone that's in there. Zane then speculates that, oh, if we just throw water in the mirror, like, that'll make it not possessed. And it turns out that that's completely true. And as they're fighting ghosts off-screen, which I guess off-page, they went around and told the villagers about throwing water in their mirrors, so now everything's chill and everyone's out of the mirrors now. It really is just that simple. It really is. Next up, we have From Ghosts to Pirates. And would you believe it, we have little vignettes of the ghosts and the pirates. Screaming Fun at the amusement park is all about Moro deciding that he wants to mess with the ninja, and that his little lackeys need to talk about a fake plan to take over the Mega Monster Music Park in front of the ninja so he can lure them there and, I don't know, have some sort of possessed trap. Each of the ninja gets stuck in said possessed trap because they fall for everything now. But they'll escape somehow through either Spinjitzu or Airjitsu, and because they got all distracted at the Mega Monster Music Park, that gave Moro enough time to enact his actual plan, but in reality, I think Moro really just got distracted here, just doing something random. We then have the grand finale, which, as far as I'm aware, I'm not going to go and double check, this is just bar for bar the finale of Possession. The ninja are facing their greatest challenge yet, because every challenge is their greatest challenge. Garmadon tells Lloyd that it was never the color of your gi, but the color of your heart. I mean, obviously it wasn't, like, what do you mean color of your heart? Like, I don't, like, like your character. Like, I don't know, we could have used different words there. But Lloyd is able to fight Moro, and then Nia has like the water thing, and then it's just the final episode. They just drew it out. For what reason, I don't really know. We then have Back in Shape. The ninja are in between, you know, Possession and Skybound, and of course, we gotta do the classic where the ninja are all super lazy now. Apparently, after saving everyone from Moro, the ninja got a bunch of free things, like a free apartment that has paid for rent and internet, and they're getting all these video games and pizza, and then Kai has like a ton of dolls, which, I mean, objectively speaking, yes, they stopped another threat, but technically speaking, they basically just saved the city of Styx from Moro, so I don't know why this is, like, everyone's problem, but what do I know? Lloyd is the only one who's like, I need you guys to focus, and so he decides that he's gonna go and fake an attack so the ninja will lock back in. He goes and he's like, I'll try to pretend to be a ghost, and so he goes to get some ghostly colored face paint, and he gets attacked by a bunch of fangirls because, I mean, all the fangirls want him real bad. So he has to run away from them. He goes to get some ghostly clothes, and then, of course, the fangirls find him again. But as he runs off, he paints himself, and he's like, I won't get recognized this time, but again, runs into the fangirls, and they're chasing him down because they still recognize him, despite being painted like a ghost. He hurries back to the ninja because he needs some help because these rabid fangirls are really going after him. When they show up there, the ninja have no clue that it's Lloyd, and they almost attack him. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He then, is like, we all, like, lost our purpose. And the ninja are then able to help Lloyd with his fangirl problem. And at the end of it, they're like, you're right, like, we all lost purpose, and we should give up our apartment to charity, and give up all our free stuff. And don't worry, we'll start training tomorrow. Excuse me? I think we're forgetting that do not put off till tomorrow what can be done today. We are stuck in prison, which ironically, this is the only pirate comic in this. Can we really call it From Ghost to Pirates if there's only one? But what do I know? It's basically like in Skybound when they're in jail. The ninja are trying to scheme and how they will escape prison. Zane is like, I could probably hack the computers, and so while he's trying to do that, Nia pretends that her cuffs are burning her, and in doing so, as a, security guard, rightfully so, comes over to try and help her. Jay accuses her of flirting with the security guy, which I guess at least we're keeping it consistent that Jay is acting such a fool in this season. Zane tries to hack the computers and he's unable to do so. It's probably like a Wi-Fi thing or whatever, and look, like, I know I said he was perfect, but, like, we all have our flaws, and honestly, I think it's just, like, really humble of him to, like, really recognize him, and he's just, like, not capable of doing so, and, like, I just think that really just shows his character and how amazing he is. There's a montage of all of them trying different things in order to get out, but at the end of the day, and I'm very serious at the end of this little comic here, they're like, oh, and then we escaped with Captain Soto just like we did in the show. Why am I here, We have the Untold Tales of Skybound, which I suppose are going to remain untold because I literally can't find this. I was using this internet archive or just like whatever I possibly could, finding random PDFs online in order to get these comics to read them and show them to you. I cannot find this one. I have scoured for this. I don't know if I just suck at research. That is always a possibility. I cannot find this one. So, unfortunately, and the wiki doesn't even really have a breakdown, so I'm sorry, we're just gonna skip this one. We have the Dark Island Trilogy. Now this one is meant to be canon. This is Tommy Andreassen's little project. We got First G back on board. And for this Dark Island Trilogy, in the early stages, we had Tommy Andreassen, Tommy Kalmar, and Kenneth Bond. They spent a day at Andreassen's house brainstorming the idea for the trilogy because they wanted to explore underutilized elements from the TV series and they wanted to tie in components from Skybound and The Day of the Departed. So this is some serious stuff. This is like a secret season that we never got. This trilogy begins as Masako and Ronan are returning from their investigation of the Dark Island. We don't learn of what exactly they found on the Dark Island, we just know that they need to get back and tell Wu what they found out. Before they can do so, however, as they're sailing, they get attacked. Wu, back in Ninjago, is sensing that something bad has happened, and Misako's boat washes up with, believe it or not, no Misako on it. However, Wu does find a note from Misako that informs him that he needs to stay away from the Dark Island because whatever is on there is so much worse than he could ever imagine. Wu collects the team and heads out for the Dark Island. As they're sailing, we get a little nod to the fact that Jay and Nia are the only ones who remember Skybound. As they're sailing, they run into a really bad storm and everyone gets separated. Quickly after this, we're introduced to this little fun thing about the comic that Wu is keeping a journal. Primarily, it is going to just end up talking about each of the ninja and their qualities, which it's fun to be vindicated that I am totally correct on my read about the ninja, but it's not always super important. However, some of them are. So this journal entry is Wu talking about how his dad way back when also had a lot of visions, and Wu became a hero for all the realm, but it got to the point where he needed to form a ninja team and so on and so forth. That's how we got here. He has also always known that Misako is quite the adventurer, and he knew about this expedition she was going on because she wanted to find out why fishermen were disappearing outside the Dark Island. He's low-key yearning for Misako, which is the best thing to ever happen in Ninjago. I love that we have something ambiguous going on between these two. Wu, of course, insists that they're still friends at the end of the day, or whatever. But, I mean, come on, we all know there's something weird going on with them. He's worried because Misako isn't returning when she should, and he thinks that his destiny is to end whatever evil darkness thing is going on the Dark Island. Being shipwrecked, Wu wakes up and Lloyd immediately tells him to run. He had taken a banana from a tree and they're getting chased by gorillas. They fall into quicksand and they air jutsu out, which is probably about the last time that they're going to be using air jutsu ever. Lloyd and Wu are able to get the bounty to sail down the river, and as they're doing so, Wu says that they can't delay in their mission on getting to the heart of the island. They need to find out what is going on here, meaning they need to leave behind the ninja and Misako. Lloyd acts like he takes this well, but he really does not. Jay and Nia are on Shadow Bay. We all, of course, have heard of Shadow Bay before. The communicators are dead, and Nia speculates that the island could cut off their powers too. This doesn't come to fruition, she just says this. They run into Nautocon's old crew, which of course to all the other ninja, once they see them, they've never seen these guys before, but the fact they're seeing Nautocon's crew now is very weird and suspicious, and even I'm a little confused. Ronan shows up, and he gets picked up by a Leviathan before that's not really an issue anymore, but it kind of just happens, and Ronan apparently has this mech, and he insists that they need to leave and abandon everyone else and just get off the island fast because whatever's going on here is just so dark and evil and bad. Ronan reveals the fact that they found a bunch of mutated beasts on this island, and it's just not worth it. He also says that he had gotten knocked off board of Misako's ship, and he doesn't know where Misako is, so no answers there quite yet. They all end up deciding to go and look anyways, because Ronan is like, well, I did get entrusted by Wu to look after Misako, so, I mean, weren't you just trying to leave a second ago? This man is so wishy-washy. We have another journal from Wu. Wu is explaining the reason that he's doing these journals anyways, just to keep a sense of himself, which makes a lot of sense. He is speculating that the darkness is being brought from the surface, that dark matter from back in season 2. And he's worried about Lloyd because, in his youth, he is maybe more susceptible to the dark evil matter, and his worry for Misako might bring that to light a lot quicker than ever. He also says that they've been on the island for a week, and he knows that the dark matter is in everything, and he is worrying about it poisoning his mind, body, and soul. Wu and Lloyd are still sailing on the River of Darkness. There's these giant bugs that they get attacked by, and Lloyd ends up shooting them down very violently. Wu is like, hey buddy, remember when I told you about doing stuff peacefully in order you can maybe have a butterfly land on you? You're just that calm. Lloyd though has these evil eyes and he completely crashes out on Wu. Lloyd is like, bye, I don't care about any of this stuff, I'm just leaving, and of course he's gonna go after Misako, but he totally just abandons Wu. Zane and Cole wake up on this mountaintop with a bunch of volcanic ash. Zane hears something and then he sees that people are being held hostage, and this is including Misako, and they're all being used as slaves by the pirates to mine dark matter. Lloyd shows up and he's kind of snapped out of it, and then they find Misako, but then now she's the one who's evil and she calls for the guards, and as they're fighting and so on, Misako somehow is able to snap out of her evilness because of Lloyd's elemental energy. Little bit of a hand wave there, but alright. It couldn't be because you're so happy to see your son. Couldn't be that. Lloyd and Misako split up from Zane and Cole. Lloyd and Misako are gonna go and save the other prisoners. Zane and Cole find the robot monkey from Skybound, and it apparently says it will help them if they don't hurt him. So now they have a little robot monkey helping them out. Nia, Jay, and Ronan then show up, and they find Cole and Zane. And as they find Cole and Zane, Lloyd and Misako have gotten all the prisoners out, and so now the whole gang is together. The pirates are retreating because they apparently have enough dark matter to go to the Temple of Light. We then have another Wu journal. He is worrying about his consciousness slipping. He starts to feel doubt creeping in, but he knows that hope has to be his anchor. And strangely enough, after reading that, we get a very physical rendition of this, so it's very redundant. Wu is bit by a mosquito that shows him his shadow self, and the shadow is being like, you made the ninja fight all your battles, and he's just like a manifestation of Wu's doubts and fears, but I mean, he did make the ninja fight all his battles, so like, is it really a doubt if it's true? Wu was like, no, I'll hold on to hope, and he's also like, yeah, maybe I put them in harm's way, but they did choose this life. I'm not gonna really say much about being a child soldier, but like, dicey area. Wu finds a super evil looking cave. Cole, back with the gang, decides he wants to split up and try to find Wu, and the rest of the ninja are gonna go and try to get to the Temple of Light before the pirates do so. Wu decides that whoever is inside this weird cave right now is exactly what is throwing off the balance. And inside we find, literally, Klaus. Yeah. So you remember, like, at the end of Possession when Klaus was able to escape the cursed realm because of Moro opening the portal and what have you, and then he found Nanakon's lamp and that's what set off Skybound, but because I got reversed at the end of Skybound, instead of doing that, Klaus decided, I got a different master plan if I can't find Nanakon's stupid lamp. Klaus captures Wu and he's like, yeah, well, like, I'm my own master now, and now I want to make everyone slaves. He opened a portal to find Nanakon's old crew and is using them to enact his new evil plan. Because his new plan is that he wants to bring all the evil dark matter, evil stuff to the Temple of Light and make it actually the Temple of Evil. And then everything will be evil and Klaus will rule. Wu is like, no, stop it, you're not just like Chen. Klaus is like, yeah, well, like, I still have slaves though, and they will be bringing the dark matter to the temple, and there's nothing you do, and everything will fall to badness. Wu, as Klaus is talking, is able to escape, and Klaus still flees, so now Klaus is going to be going after the Temple of Light now. Cole finds Wu, and then immediately Wu is like, actually no, go find Kai. And Wu is like, I'll just sail to the Temple of Light, so Cole's got a second side quest for ya. Wu then talks about Zane, and it's like a million billion pages long, because like, I mean, like, you can't just stop at like, just like a few thousand, like it's gotta be so much more. But he does mention that, technically speaking, I mean, he's a Nindroid, like what if he could just kind of push past all this darkness and be our secret weapon because he's just not affected by it. This doesn't come to fruition at all, which is so unfortunate. Wu also has a little disclaimer, he's like, well, you know, I couldn't deal with Nauticon and his crew because I was busy with stuff on the other side of the world, so like I never clashed with Nauticon. So it's like, don't blame me guys for any of that happening, which is like, it ties up a loose end if you ever wondered why he never fought Nauticon, but I never thought about that in the first place. Not this entire time, I never wondered that. But now I have an answer. Moving into part 3, which I didn't delineate between 1 and 2, which is, it's not that important, it all flows together, but I was looking on the archive when I was reading this, and much to my surprise, Part 3 wasn't on there. And I was like, are we kidding? This is another untold tales of Skybound again, where somehow I'm just not able to finish reading this comic for this video? Like, you gotta be kidding me. Somehow, against all odds, I tracked down this Instagram page that posted single photo by single photo. Yes, it's just like 2016 or whatever. There was not the scroll feature. Individual posts of the pages of the graphic novels, and they had Dark Island Trilogy Part 3 on there, and they are the only reason I ever got through the rest of this. So shout out to @Ninjago Books. Thank you! Kai is trekking through the Billy Badlands. We've always heard about the Billy Badlands. He's captured by pirates, and he is turned into the hood ornament of their vehicle. As they're doing a pit stop, Cole shows up, and he gives Kai water and also frees him, and then fights the pirates, and then catches them up to speed, and Kai's low-key turning evil, but he gets over it very quickly. I think we're just being reminded that everyone could possibly turn evil. Being exposed to this darkness, we're just not really fully fallen for it, so that's okay. The dark matter is somehow affecting the land enough to make a giant arm come out of it. I don't know what it is with these comics and giant arms coming out of the ground. It's very weird. They're all chasing after Klaus's caravan now. Everyone showed up, the whole gang's back together. There's this giant sandstorm that gets Klaus to escape from getting caught, so now we're really still on the run. Wu journals again. He talks about how the first Spinjitzu master wanted the world to be at peace and full of plenty, but the overlord showed up and kind of ruined that for everyone. That all happened in the span of a human life. So that's, I guess, good to know in terms of the timeline here. Klaus ultimately gets to the temple, gets the evil bad stuff around there, and he wins. That's crazy. What are we gonna do now? Now everything everywhere is so bad. There's earthquakes and hurricanes and everything is so evil, and the ninja are low-key kind of slowly turning evil, but Wu shows up and he suddenly has his father's golden mech. If you remember that from season 2, it very quickly became obsolete, but Wu was like, oh, I got it fixed by Cyrus Borg. And Wu's like, just get me an in, open a hole through the shadow army that's showing up now. By the way, there's a shadow army showing up now. Help me get past them, this is my fight. He goes and he fights Klaus. And it's really not too crazy. He has a giant light sword and he does take down Klaus because this is his battle and he's stopping the evil. Somehow though, Wu is reheating his nachos that he had with Moro and he's like, Klaus, this isn't you. Everyone deserves a second chance. Klaus is like, yeah, I actually would rather like forever be damned to the underworld than like be saved like by Wu. Gonna be honest. So he chooses the portal. Everything turned normal again though. The pirates are taken in. All is good. Klaus is banished to the underworld. And the ninja are soaking up their win because they did it again. I mean, Wu mostly did it, but they did it. Wu writes in his journal one last time. He talks about how we are all a mix of light and dark. These are challenging forces, but they are forces nonetheless that make us self-reflect, because if we never had to be minded what matters, then how can we value anything? How can we ever strive for anything? He then plants the premise of the Hands of Time because, you know, this comic does technically, minus Day of the Departed, lead into the Hands of Time. And that is where our last graphic novel leaves us off on. Okay, I might have lied a little bit. There is still more content out there. Technically speaking, yes, I could be like, oh, the tiny little comics and all the activity books, like, are those canon or not? No, that's not what we're talking about. Let me run it by you real quick. We have the Garmadon comic. We have the Shadowspin comic. We have the Land of Monsters. We also technically have Way of the Departed. It was never made into a thing, but that was Tommy Andreassen's thing and his little passion project, so it does exist. And then we also have, coming out, I think in March or April, sometime very soon, we have the Serpentine Wars comic. These are all actually canon. And to be honest, I debated whether or not I was going to talk about these, and I landed on the idea that probably not. I really don't think lumping these in with the rest of the mainline comics really makes sense. Technically speaking, these are relatively more offshoots than they are direct tie-ins to anything. Yes, they are canon, and that's important context for people to know, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I've read Garmadon and Shadowspin. They blow the other comics out of the water. They are genuinely so good. And they're so good to the point that I'd much rather just make an entire video about Garmadon and discussing these comics than to lump them in here just for completion's sake. You might low-key hate that, but guys, just subscribe and maybe I'll talk about the other ones. I'm kidding. I would never intentionally bait you guys. I am just not going to be talking about these though. So, all in all, these comics are just very silly and very strange. You probably gleaned that from everything I just talked about. Obviously, though, the whole discussion of which of these are canon and which parts are and which parts aren't, that whole back and forth is kind of inevitable. As a former child fan, having grown up in the fandom, of course, I understand that the creators might just be placating us when they say that maybe it could be canon, because that's probably the best information to give people. If you told younger me, obviously, the Phantom Ninja is not real, I'd be like, what do you mean? Like, I love Seliel. Like, she is awesome and so cool. And it just kind of takes the enjoyment out of that. And maybe they weren't actually placating us. That would be me putting words in their mouth and assuming their complete and honest intentions, but I really wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Because honestly, we are very inquisitive. We ask a lot of questions. There is so much stuff you probably could find on Twitter of random obscure facts that were just kind of canonized just because we were desperate for an answer and wouldn't leave them alone. So, I get why they could be like, I don't know, maybe it is. You decide for yourself. That is a great answer if that's the case.
Obviously, of course, this video was never that super serious because I really just wanted an excuse to revisit these comics because I genuinely love them. It's honestly probably been years since I last read them, and it was a pleasure to do it again. I feel like I was communicating with my younger self, and it was very nostalgic. Anyways, moving forward, I'm not sure how often I'll actually post. You probably could have gotten that considering I haven't posted since my last video. Obviously, I want to talk about the other seasons of Ninjago, but that's a pretty big undertaking. I have some other videos in mind that I will finish when I think that they are up to par with how I want them to be. Not everything is gonna be about Ninjago that I'm posting, just a little disclaimer there, but hopefully you guys can enjoy that anyways. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!